This is the Homance Chronicles, and I'm Sarah.
And I'm Nicole.
We're on the YouTubes right now.
Well, we're not
Yet.
live.
No. But I forget that I'm being video recorded as well as audio recorded. I'm not used to this.
We are video recorded every time. It's just not intended for posting.
That's my problem.
You don't feel natural now that you think that this is going to be
Fuck no.
posted. Oh,
No. I have some weird thing, and that's why I'm not photogenic at all. Like I have this weird thing. Like as soon as I know something's gonna be broadcasted out, I'm like, I get fucking weird. I don't know why.
should I
Anybody?
have? Well, I wanted to be courteous and tell you that I was going to plan on posting this on YouTube so that you would have like hair and stuff
Yeah.
done and you wouldn't feel like I was like after recording going, "Hey, I'm going to post it," and then you being like, "But I looked like a slop," you know?
No, 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 no. It doesn't matter if I have heads up. It doesn't matter if I don't. It doesn't matter.
Well, if I didn't tell you, then you wouldn't have known.
Then I would have looked like an idiot. No background. This is better this way. It's okay. This is unavoidable at the end of the day. It's fine.
Okay. All right. I mean, we've performed in front of live audiences
Terrified every single time.
before.
And then I got up there and it was live, so it was fine. It's the capturing of the moment that upsets me the most. You know,
Well, we are posting on YouTube because I decided instead of spending my time doing research on a hoe of history this week, that I would just share my Hives journey that I've been on, and kind of put my thoughts together and prepare to talk about that because it's never ending. It's a mystery, and why not use a platform that we're already doing to try to educate slash spread awareness slash maybe get some answers slash support some people.
it's like we're at this stage in life where it's like, hey, this is tragically mysterious. Can you help me? Anybody? Can you help me? Because science can't anymore.
Well, and it's not as though I don't feel like my healthcare providers are failing me in any kind of way. Um, it's a little bit of information overload though when I'm on my own researching, and I've already done process of elimination on a lot of things. Um, and so it more comes down to the fact that I'm trying to summarize information for the healthcare providers so they can make educated decisions within the limited amount of time that they give you during an appointment.
Yeah, it's all ridiculous at this point. And like the worst part is that you have to be your own advocate so hard that you have to kind of like pre-do their jobs in order to get a couple of answers. But I wanted to make sure everybody understood, like you're not looking to just feel better. You're looking to correct the root cause of the issue. So yes, you have
Right.
things that you did that worked, but your ultimate goal was to completely eliminate it, not just mask the issues.
Right. Which is also where you run into some barriers and some speed bumps because due to our traditional health system, they treat symptoms, not root causes. And you also would have to have a lot of appointments to get to a root cause.
A lot of appointments with a variety of human beings that are not
Yeah.
talking together, teams of people. Like you need basically a whole college at
I
some
am a
point.
research project at this point.
Yes, like just submit yourself to college
Right.
research, go to
Right.
schools of medicine and be like, hi, I'm your subject. Here's my blood.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. I give them all the things. My blood, my spit, my urine. Like, what other bodily fluid would you like in
I
order to
mean,
try to figure this out?
you already gave somebody poop and they lost it. So there is
I
that.
know.
I still think that your shit made it to the black market.
Hopefully somebody's enjoying it. I don't know.
I
Like,
mean, it's got to be good. You eat really well.
um, so that's the preface of why we're doing this today and why we've switched up how we normally do things and the topics we normally cover. Because as a frustrated patient, you reach a point where you're like, you know what? What's the harm in putting it out there? Because
Well, I mean, at this point, it's already out there in other in like social media platforms, right? Where there's Facebook, there's Instagram, there's places for people to interact, and even on YouTube. So you're just, in my opinion, continuing to expand the community of people who are like, "What the fuck's happening to me?" This is unfortunate.
right. And I've already recorded an episode with my functional doctor, Dr. Janine Kraus, on the Health Fix podcast and posted about that. I have not posted any pictures of my hives situation. I have not tried to make it like a woe is me. There was a like a autoimmune health awareness day or something where I did do a post, but at this point my personality has become my medical conditions. So why avoid it?
All
You
right.
know?
I mean, it
Um
impacts you so much. It's you're like, it's when you don't have issues and all of a sudden you have a headache, you're sad about it, and it's like this is a trillion times worse than a headache. And they expect you to just operate like normal. It's impossible.
yeah, I don't know who's they as far as expecting because maybe I put that pressure on myself. Maybe I'm included in the they that I expect myself to operate as normal. Um, I don't know. I haven't received, I guess, the feeling that I'm expected to operate as normal. It's just the what are you doing in between the appointments? What are you doing while you're researching? What are you doing while you're trying to figure out answers because you're trying to operate as normal in the in-between times. And that's where you have to allow more grace for yourself, I guess. I'm sure there are some healthcare professionals who don't share as much empathy or truly listen to their patients. I've been in those types of situations before. So thankfully in my current situation, like that's not necessarily the case 100%. There's, a little bit of that going on, but like for the most part, I feel like I'm being heard. They just are also frustrated because they want to help and it's not working, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so with that long intro out of the way, I guess I can jump into what's been going on. Um, because it's a strange story and there could be many other episodes that would be offshoots because it includes my other medical conditions. This is the Hives episode. Maybe I'll have another episode about my thyroid, another one about my migraines, like whatever. If you want to talk about your myasthenia gravis, like we could just go on and on about our medical issues. Um, so back in September of 2024, I went to McDonald's, which is not the typical resort I would go to for a late lunch or, a desperation level that I would seek. However, in the midst of running errands, etc., and then smelling the fries, I got lured in. And the fries at McDonald's are actually gluten-free, except for obviously if you're celiac, you would not do that because they're probably in the same fryer as other things. Actually, I think the fries do have their own fryer. Anyway, doesn't matter. Not the point. The point is that I ordered a Big Mac meal, and because I'm gluten-free due to other health issues, I wait till I get home to eat said burger because I have to take it apart. And so I am washing my hands. I'm deconstructing the burger. I'm basically eating a meat patty with like the special sauce and some lettuce. And within 10 minutes of consuming the meat patty, I had a large hive on my thigh. Now, the thigh is a little bit of a weird place, but I'm used to having hives. Also, due to other medical conditions, hives are life. And I noticed that it was much larger than normal. And typically, if I have a food reaction, it's not on my thigh, it's like on my uh trunk, I guess, or what is it like?
Your torso?
It's like on the torso, yes.
My trunk.
Um, so I thought it was a little odd, but like because I get hives a lot from a lot of different environmental factors and foods, I'm like, whatever, it'll go away. And so that was like a Thursday, I think. And then the next day, I was doing my whole running around thing again because I was in the process of coordinating complete renovation of my kitchen at the same time.
Which the
So
kitchen turned out beautifully.
yeah, so I'm on my way to the cabinet place and I'm like, dang, my like thighs are really itchy. Um, So not until I got home did I realize that now the hives are very large, taking up a lot of real estate and on both thighs. Over the weekend, they had progressed to full coverage of hips, butt, um, full thighs. Like it was crazy. I was putting external creams on them to try to make them stop itching and it wasn't working. And I had a prednisone pack from my neurologist actually for migraines, another medical condition. So when your migraines get really bad, you can take a steroid pack and it helps alleviate it so that you can, get out of the dark and function. I had not needed to use it for a migraine, so I used it in this instance because I was like, whoa, these hives are out of control. Like my body's having like this crazy histamine response. And so started that pack where you start out heavy, right? Like you start out with a lot of pills and then you work your way down. Um, so of course the hives go away and I'm like, whoo, all right, that took care of it. Um, but as soon as oh no, I didn't finish the whole pack. I did not. I was like, I'm not gonna do this whole thing if the hives went away. So I decreased how much I was taking about halfway through, and the hives started like creeping back in. They were smaller, not taking as much real estate, but like letting me know that they were there. Super, super itchy. So then I finished the steroid pack because I was like, oh, maybe I should have finished it. Whoopsie. So then I finish it and yeah, hives still come back again. So now we're into like mid September of me trying to like manage it myself, but I also happen to have a doctor appointment um for some other blood work due to other medical conditions.
More other potential medical conditions.
um so I did have a bunch of blood work drawn when I was about 10 to 14 days into this whole debacle. I was concerned that it could have been alpha gal from like a tick bite or
Which I don't even know what the fuck that is, or what. You can get what from what now?
yeah. Um I was like maybe it is food related. I've never seen anything like this happen due to food, but who knows? Like maybe I'm allergic to something new that I was unaware of. All these things that I'm like, maybe, right. And the blood work all comes back showing, yes, there's a problem.
What is it? We don't know.
No one knows.
We don't have a name for it.
No one
Can't even
knows.
pinpoint it. It's so fun. Do you guys like
So,
mysteries?
yeah. So they measured like my IgE and
Which
other
again, what
typical
is that?
is IgE levels are ways of measuring inflammation and like reactions in your body.
Okay.
Um, I there's IgAs, there's like all these different ways that they can tell that your body is having a reaction. Um, my white blood cell count was real high, and like there were outside of the physical symptoms, it was like, whoa, what's going on internally? Um, but it couldn't really tell what it was. So my nurse practitioner at the doctor's office thought that it was a parasite, which to me made sense considering I said, "Hey, I ate this burger from McDonald's," and then all of a sudden I had a hives explosion. And then based on my IgE and other levels, she's like, "I'm pretty sure this is a parasite." So she prescribed ivermectin, which is a typical anti-parasitic. However, I had to wait a couple of days to get it because I was having to get it from a compound pharmacy. And you don't necessarily have to get it from a compound pharmacy. It's just that that's who they trusted to
Mm-hmm.
put it together because my doctor's office is integrative medicine. And so my internal medicine doctor takes insurance, but is, I would say, a bit more holistic or will provide alternative methods other than just like, here's a prescription. Um, Ivermectin didn't work. So I went to a couple of different chiropractors who I would say are more like wellness professionals, and they do muscle testing.
I call all these doctors woo woos and witch doctors
Yeah.
with all of the respect.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're magical.
So I went to three different ones. They had three different styles of muscle testing. However, parasite did come up as a positive, and so did bacteria and many other things. Well, I have gut issues. And I think most people in America probably have parasites as well.
We're all
Um,
fucked. I'm not gonna dive in. We're all fucked.
yeah, so I continue to go down the parasite path while still investigating other things because I have Hashimoto's, which is a form of hypothyroidism, and it is commonly connected to get hives and hypothyroidism. However, I've had it for 20 years, so it's kind of rare for you to get the hives from it like that far in. It would be more typical as a symptom if you were just starting to have a decrease in thyroid ability or maybe thyroid cancer or something like that. So I am continuing down the parasite path, and in the meantime, taking prednisone to keep the hives at bay. However, the uh, prednisone is got its own series of side effects, which really manifested themselves like a couple of months later. It's not obviously prednisone's not intended for long-term use. It's supposed to be like that pack that I took, like a quick reprieve and you're done. And
I was on prednisone for like a year and a half, 2 years.
right.
So I feel your pain.
Yeah. I had met with my mom's friend who was the doctor, and she was really concerned about my daily prednisone intake and was quite scared about the side effects of the long-term use of taking it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was feeling really lost in the moment because it was the only thing that was working.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I say I had hives, I mean head to toe on my scalp. on my toes
I don't feel like
everywhere.
I don't feel like the image of hives that people traditionally get does what you had any justice. Nicole sent me a picture and her entire side was consumed by a big red itchy patch. Not not like a bunch of little hives like chicken pox, like bigger than my two hands put together connected. It was a mega hive. She was just one single hive.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe two. That's it. Like it took up areas of her face, her legs, her body, everything.
Yeah, my eyelids were swollen. At one point in this journey, I wanted to go to the emergency room, but I was like, they're not going to do anything for me. So I ended up going to urgent care because my hands were so swollen that they looked like if you had taken a rubber glove and like blown it up. So when the hands got that swollen is when I got scared.
Mm-hmm.
And
And she elected to go to the urgent care.
I
As
did
she was
because,
terrified and went to the urgent care instead of the emergency room.
well,
What
I
I'm
just thought of
not
the
saying like,
emergency room would be a complete waste.
well, that's what I mean. Like, in the emergency room shouldn't be a complete waste. It should be somewhere that you can go to get help, and instead you couldn't. You had to go to an urgent care center. I thought that was, you know, what emergency rooms were kind of for.
Well, they are, but the problem is in my particular situation that if I had gone to an emergency room, they would just run all of the tests I already had ran, and they would have probably done the same thing that an urgent care would have done, except for maybe they would have put me in an IV of liquids or something, but there wasn't I didn't want to spend the hours there or the money on that visit
That I mean
when,
that's my point. It's the hours.
yeah,
It should be a quick situation. That's what that whole thing is predicated on, and it's not anymore. It's very cumbersome. You can receive the same care in urgent care, but it's also hilarious that you're like, I'm terrified. I'm going to urgent care instead of an actual hospital. And that was why it was a deterrent because of that.
right. So, because I was so uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And this was at a time when I wasn't on the prednisone. I was, it was like October time frame. And I think I had run out of the prescription that they had given me. There was some reason why I wasn't taking the prednisone at the time. It was still like early in this journey, and so that's how the swelling got to the point that it did. Um, so at urgent care, they gave me a steroid shot that lasted for 48 hours, and that was enough for me to at least feel like I could get some rest and make it through like the rest of the weekend. They also, to your point, asked me to do a stool sample because I was telling them that I was basically treating this as if it was a parasite. And they're like, well, did you do a stool sample? And I said,
Funny you should ask.
no, no, I have not. And the doctor was like, well, then how do you know if it's a parasite or not? Or like if you're treating the parasite the right way or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, she wanted me to do that. However, I found out through our traditional medical system that it was a complete waste of time. I
And why is that?
lost it. Well, so I did the stool sample, dropped it back off. They had like the lab come pick it up. The lab never uploaded actual results. Like they had received it, I think. Not sure, don't remember. It doesn't matter. There were no results from this test because it was quote unquote missing.
I just don't. In this day and age, I'm just suspicious of everything. It's on the black market.
Yeah. So then I do the stool sample again. This time they run it, they don't lose it. And I find out that they only test for like two or three parasites. And they have like they're like the least likely ones that are going to be hidden, if that makes sense. Like, I
Yep.
feel like some of these are like, you're going to have really drastic
Like the rarest
GI
ones you could
issues.
possibly have, basically. They're like, oh,
You're
you're
gonna
fine. That's cool.
you're gonna like have way more symptoms than I had. Um, you more than likely would see something possibly in your stool as well, right?
Right.
But I
And this
found
is
out,
like all across the board in every lab, right? Like that's the rule. They don't have to test for all the other ones that that we test our dogs and cats for, just the
correct, they
ones
set the
that are very
mandate
rare.
of
Yeah.
what they will test
How
for.
how convenient for
Yeah.
them.
So a doctor or a technician or scientist, whoever's looking at the sample, could literally see a worm in the sample, but your report would say negative if it's not a worm that they test for.
Yep. It's absolute fucking bullshit.
So they won't even know, like, worm
Others
seen.
other things detected.
No,
Nothing.
no.
And this is not solicited advice. We're not allowed to tell people what the alternative potential is, right?
What do you mean? What
In order to
alternative?
get, well, in order to get your samples tested in full.
Oh, oh, oh. Well, I mean this, yeah, I'm not a doctor. This is not medical advice. I'm also
No.
not a criminal, and I am also not technically giving anyone advice. I'm just
No, this is
explaining
not
my
medical advice.
experience. And
And the
in my
things we heard,
experience, I learned
the things we heard.
that you could technically pretend that your stool sample is your dog's and take it to an old school veterinarian who does not ship their samples off. And the old school veterinarian would be the one who would look at the sample. And so if they saw a parasite in there, they would tell you.
And technically, this is illegal. So this is not advice in any way, shape, or form. Please do not go and say that this is something we told you to do, but it's kind of fucky, isn't it?
It's very fucky.
Uh-huh.
Um, that you could get potentially answers for your dog's worm problem, but not your own. But even in the cases of like newer veterinarians who ship them off, it's they have the same issue.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you need like an old school one who's going to put it on a.
So, not a Banfield or any of those vets that are
I mean, to
connected.
my knowledge, I don't know how those vets work. I'm just saying
Oh,
that
we
it
know.
seems as though if there's a procedure where they or a protocol, I'll call it, where they send stuff off to a lab, you're less likely to get um 100% accurate reading. How about that?
You will get false negatives.
So, um,
So fucked up.
yeah. So I had an appointment with my internal medicine doctor and I told her everything that I went through with the urgent care. And so she's explaining to me this process of why she doesn't do stool samples and how it's a waste of time. Unless you were to do a full GI map, which is something that I did do eventually. And so she's kind of flabbergasted. So throughout this process, I take
We all are, Nicole.
doxycycline, which is an antibiotic, and two different antiparasitics. So the ivermectin didn't work, so we tried another one. Um, After the second one that I tried, it was helpful and that like the hives were not as intense. So some things did calm down. And then throughout this whole process, I'm also being told to eat super clean, avoid sugar because parasites eat off of sugar. Um, Watch, you know, how much I am intaking from external places, restaurants, other people's homes, etc. Like I was on prednisone from September to December, And typically, because it's steroid, people gain weight. I lost 12 pounds. That's how closely I was watching my diet.
That's
Um,
actually like that's fucking crazy.
and once I got off
Prednisone
the
makes you so fat.
I know. Well, but the crazy thing is that like once I got off the prednisone and started like eating regular and stuff, like all the weight came back and more.
Of course, naturally.
Like
Oh, we missed you. I want
I put
more.
on like 15 pounds. Like I got like more weight came after. I was like,
Jesus.
God damn it. Um, I just want to live. And
I just want to find a job and enjoy my new house.
I just want my one glass of wine here and there. Can I
Is that
have
too
a
much to ask?
can I have a fruit snack? No.
Oh,
Um,
how dare you? No fries for you.
yeah. So I also, in addition to trying prescription medications, went like a more holistic route with like standard process brand supplements. And that took me down a different road because I was being muscle tested for how much of each thing that I needed because there were some necessary functions in my body that were lacking. And so we thought, well, maybe if we help out like my liver in cleansing things and processing things and getting them out of my system, like that would help, you know? I tend to sometimes have like a sluggish gallbladder. So I've been, so I'm taking like all these supplements to try to help flush things out of my body in addition to all the medications, right?
And
So I'm
like
doing a lot of like trying to wipe out.
done in tons of changes all at once.
Yes. And so I was
Lifestyle.
trying to do the changes with the medications and supplements and stuff thoughtfully, um, so that I could monitor whether the hives were getting better or worse in according to the thing I was taking. It was tough though. And I very quickly found out that although I may have muscle tested to need 5 pills of wormwood, which is a more natural parasite cleanse. The 5 pills for me made it way worse. I was up all night, I was itching, and it was awful. So, um, I had to use a lot of my own intuition throughout this whole process. And because I have other medical conditions, I am very in tune with my body.
Other medical condition. Other
So,
other living my life normally casualties.
um, so I had to really listen to my body and like pay attention to how it was reacting to things and trust like gut instincts on whether I thought that something was helping me or not. So all of the things that I'm talking about are all just kind of like tools in the toolbox, but at the end of the day, it was really like sitting in the physical and emotional states and going, how is this making me feel? Which, you know, is not something that you can do well if you're still trying to renovate a kitchen and work and maintain relationships and get ready for holidays and whatever, right? So, uh, a lot of people also told me that it could be stress.
Oh, we know it's beyond that though.
Um, I again intuitively did not think that this all started from stress. The problem was once it started, I was very stressed.
So there's a possibility that is now, fueling that fire.
Right. It's interesting because the more that I talk about having chronic hives, which the medical name for it is chronic urticaria, and there's two different kinds, idiopathic and spontaneous. And um, the spontaneous part is okay. The cat's tail is making your entire face disappear.
I forgot. See, I'm recording. I forgot. This is why.
Do you guys see when we record, typically we do, or we're on video like this, but this is what I speak to normally.
You get what you get, man.
Because everybody's like, well, why don't you guys do video? And I'm like,
Me. It's because of me. Well, in all fairness, I also work from home on Mondays when we actually record, and I look like a fucking gremlin, and I'm not gonna put makeup on for 2 hours.
Right. I mean, we could change our recording day, but my thing has always been like, this is the hobby, and I don't want to turn it into
It's not a
a
job.
full-time job of editing video and all of that. If
No.
somebody else was to do it, like if
All
we just
right.
had to be talent, great.
Oh man, if I was only talent, this thing would be a lot different.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But if I have to do all my own marketing and social media and video editing and all that stuff, I'm like, I don't know. Um, anyway, I was I was not sold on the concept that it was stress that caused the hives. However, the more that I talk about this and the more I come around to, um, I guess, exploring different solutions and just trying to find answers, people are telling me about their experience, and this seems to be much more prevalent than recorded. Um, it's affecting a lot of people. Even though it sounds really crazy and nobody's really seen it. I had a meeting one day and there were maybe, I don't know, 10 of us in this room. There were 3 people who had been affected by it, either themselves personally or like their loved one. I'm like, that's a problem.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Those 3 instances, 2 out of the 3 were stress related.
That's even
When
worse.
when they had
Oh,
changed jobs or something in their life had changed, the hives went away.
somebody else had also mentioned they had stress hives not too long ago, and I was like, I can't fathom that. I never, when I get stressed out, I get cranky. Like that's my thing. That's it. I don't know what it's like to just like have my body physically react. And for all of you that get stress hives, I'm sorry. I didn't even realize that was a thing until like she started having her thing. I was like, wait, you could just be stressed out, maxed out, and have hives? That's a
Mhm.
thing.
Mhm.
It's insane to me.
Mhm. Well, stress can cause a lot of things as
We know that.
we continuously learn, right? And there was actually another person that I talked to who had stress hives from their job,
That's fucked up.
which if I knew that the hives were tied to my stressy job, like I wouldn't I'd be happy, honestly,
Yeah,
to know that that was the case and
right,
would not have a problem making a change.
right.
Um, I don't know how they learned it until possibly the job change happened or, um, naturally the hives like went away after their stress went down. And so when you're in the thick of it, when you're trying to figure out like where is this coming from, it's such a mystery because it could come from so many different places. And I started researching via other patients' experiences. And so I joined this Facebook group, a chronic urticaria women's only Facebook group that had 25,000 women in it.
Not
Um,
100,000.
yes,
All were they all
and
from the States or were they from other countries too?
other countries too.
Okay.
And I joined one or two other ones as well that was a mix of men and women. However, just in my general score keeping in my brain as I'm reading through things, I realized that a lot of the hives spontaneously erupting was happening to not
What?
that the hives were like erupting. I'm just like that your body
Oh,
was having this reaction, not
okay.
like not that like the hives were like
I was
bursting,
like,
but
I'm sorry, did they evolve and I didn't know?
no, 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 no. That your body's having this eruption of hives was a lot of women in their early 40s. So that's when I was like, okay, is this hormonal?
Hmm.
Like, I started having perimenopause symptoms around 37, and that is not based on my doctor confirming that. That is based on me saying these were my symptoms. What the fuck else could it be? You know? Um, when you are used to sleeping like a baby and have zero interruptions, typically, and then all of a sudden you have night sweats and you can't sleep and you've got insomnia and you wake up bothered. I was like, tell me what else it could be, please,
Please, please help me.
Um, the problem was that at 37, 38, people were saying it was too young to have perimenopause symptoms, which,
Really?
yes, as we're finding out in just even like the last year with a lot more women coming forward about their perimenopause and menopause symptoms, um, at least it's all up in my feed because that's what I search for. I am the
Hmm.
perfect algorithm, right? But Oprah did do a special on it recently. Halle Berry's been very vocal about it. Dr. Marie Claire is blown up on TikTok over it. And so there are some more like mainstream messages that are coming through about perimenopause and menopause. And now they're saying that it's not unlikely that a woman who's 35 could start experiencing symptoms.
Yeah.
I've
It's
also
crazy because
heard, oh, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say that I remember when I was younger, my mom and my aunt would talk about, they were going through menopause or whatever. And it started right around their mid 40s, but that was like at the time that made sense for society and the health of all of our society. And I feel like now our hormones are so disrupted with everything that we've got going on. We're going to start to see that age slip more and more to when we're younger, unfortunately,
I
unless people take
mean,
care of themselves better.
I never thought about this till like this moment, but if puberty is starting earlier for girls
Yeah.
because of all of the
Mm-hmm.
ridiculousness in what we're consuming and breathing,
Wearing.
um, then it could be likely, right?
Yeah.
I also heard a rumor that if you haven't had children, you start earlier.
I haven't had children and I'm by the moon.
Yeah, I mean, well, and but a lot of it is also hereditary.
Yeah.
Um, my mom and grandma both started at 40. So is it
Yeah.
really that far-fetched that I would start
No,
seeing
it's not
symptoms
at
at
all.
37, 38? Probably not,
No.
right? Um, so I'm sitting here going, okay, well, hives are connected to hypothyroidism. Hives are possibly connected to stress or other things that alter, the inner makeup of your body. Um, so my hives could be a combination of, sure, a parasite, but also I have other things going on. And so when you put them all in the blender together, it was like, psh, like
Hives.
the lid blew off. Um, and I have a lot of, gut issues. So I'm not sitting here saying that this would be a normal experience for somebody who's healthy and doesn't have any other medical conditions. Um,
Keyword.
yeah, I don't. I don't believe that I filter things out appropriately. I'm not like as regular as I should be. I have a lot of food sensitivities. So your gut plays a major role in how the rest of your body is functioning.
No, your gut dictates the rest of your body's functions.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. So I'm like, I really feel like this is all kind of residing in the gut. And
Hmm.
so I did though see my endocrinologist, who is the doctor, the specialist that I see once a year for my thyroid, because I also have my thyroid blood work done by my internal medicine doctor. I have a personal issue with endocrinologists in general. The one I see now, she's fine, but like I've in the past tried to explain that the medication that they give me, which is levothyroxine for my thyroid, is what makes me sensitive to the sun. I get hives from the sun.
I remember those days when we would go to the pool and you would have to take your medication at a different time because you would get hives while laying out at the pool. And then you went and got real, real thyroid meds instead of synthyroid meds. But you were still having some issues here and there, but you weren't getting hives from the sun anymore, right?
Uh,
Or do you even not even remember anymore?
so I had tried Armor Thyroid very briefly, which is a more natural
Right.
hormone replacement. I don't remember why I came off of it or like why it wasn't working for me. There was something where it wasn't showing. I don't think it was just money. I think there was something else about it. Um,
I just remember you had to pay out of pocket for it because it
that
wasn't
too.
covered by insurance.
Yeah, yeah, that too. I don't know if that's changed now. It's been quite some time.
Hmm.
Um,
It certainly has. That
yeah,
was a while ago.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, for reference, I've been taking thyroid hormone replacement since I was 25 and I'm now 41. So most of that time I have been on levothyroxine. Besides maybe that blip where I took Armor for a hot second.
Yeah.
And I have complained about the levothyroxine. But I remember telling an endocrinologist previously that it's what was triggering my
Yeah.
sun allergy. He didn't believe me. He made me do a urine test that was really involved. He literally said to me, "It's not my medicine." And I was like, "Oh, it's not made by like Pfizer or some other big company. It's okay. All right." Um,
Okay, bud. Okay.
I switched doctors after that whole scenario because
Hmm.
I had to prove out that it wasn't something else.
But also,
Um,
you don't need a doctor that's not going to listen to you, let alone mansplain to you. Like, get the fuck out of here.
right.
Sorry, bye.
And switched to a different doctor. I told them, well, I've switched endocrinologists, I don't know, probably 4 times in the last like 10 years or something, right? Um, the problem with endocrinologists, in my opinion, is that they follow the Thyroid Association guidelines to a T. And
And
if
how old
it's
are those?
if it's not written in the book, then they're not going to explore it or do it or go outside of the realm of things.
Right.
So I
That's
have
with
consistently
all
sought
Western
out
medicine.
functional, huh?
That's with all Western medicine.
I mean, I don't know. I'm pretty lucky with my internal medicine doctor, but yes, for most specialists, they are specialists because they studied in that particular area, and most of them have not actually experienced the issues that they're treating.
Hmm.
And so they go by what the book tells them to do.
Yep. My neurologist, when I started seeing success without gluten in my diet, in my opinion, they should have some semblance of understanding of nutrition when it comes to all of this stuff, and they don't. And so he was like, "Good for you." And I was like, "Yeah, do you need to put that in some log somewhere so that other people that have myasthenia can benefit from this information?" He was like, "No, that's not part of my scope." What do you mean it's not part of your fucking scope? Aren't you supposed to be helping people? Just it blows me away still. Still.
Well, yeah. So that's why I said like I have a gripe with endocrinologists because similarly, it's not necessarily for the greater good. It's
No,
I'm
it's
treating
certainly not.
symptoms, I'm doing my job.
Yep.
Um, So I have told other endocrinologists what I do, like especially if I go on vacation to like Mexico or the Caribbean or something, I'm like, okay, I don't take my medication when I'm leaving so that my skin isn't like shocked by the sun. And then when I get there, I switch to taking it at night instead of taking it in the morning so it has more time to release in my body and so it's not as strong
Mm-hmm.
as when like because you're supposed to take it in the morning an hour before you eat or drink anything else and have it like really settle in. Well, guess what, even with doing that, if you walk out into the sun after taking it, it's like ah, for me, not for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a rare case. And
Naturally.
so the endocrinologist goes, I'm glad that's working.
There's a quality of life issue here, my guy. Like,
Well,
my
no, even I just like
God.
the most recent one that I have, she's a female and she's like, oh yeah, if that's working. I'm like, yay. So that's why I said I go once a year to like have it on the books, to have like an endocrinologist assigned to me so that I wouldn't, if something happens, I wouldn't have to be like a new patient. Um, which is a whole other thing I can get into because throughout this process, I kept learning about a medication called Xolair, which is an injection, and a bunch of people said that it worked miracles for them as far as having their quality of life back. Because at this point, I could only sleep maybe 4 or 5 hours a night at the most. I'd wake up itching. There's something about how your system produces cortisol and is on track with the moon and circadian cycles and et cetera, that basically your histamine level rises in the evening, so I'd wake up with hives. Just wake up itching.
Oh my God. Ugh.
So I had an allergist from forever ago.
My circadian rhythm.
I mean,
It's hilarious.
I had an allergist from forever ago that I called their office and pleaded with them to see me because they wanted to start me as a new patient. Well, when you go to a specialist as a new patient, you have to wait 3 months
Oh my
and you get
God.
put on a cancellation list. This is typical with any specialist, right? That's why people are stay sick for so long too. Like,
Mhm.
so I had a brief stint where I worked for the University of Michigan health system when I was in my early 20s, which taught me a loads about being your own advocate and how a doctor is not going to call and check on you and say, "Hey, we haven't seen you." A doctor
No.
is not going to follow up with you to say, "Did that medication work?" You have to do all of these things, right? And so I begged and pleaded with a nurse at this allergist office, or maybe she was a medical assistant. I truly don't know. I said, I can't sleep. I have no quality of life. I am like a, consistently a step away from going to the emergency room.
Or urgent care.
Well, you have to amplify your story. I don't know if you know this, but you have to exaggerate the truth sometimes to get what you want out of the medical system. And so she worked me in. I talked to the doctor, the allergist, and he told me we may never know what's causing this.
Mm.
The reason that it's called chronic spontaneous urticaria is because these hives come and go as they please. I also saw patients who said that they'd had them for a year and then they just went away. The year mark seemed to be very typical. However, there's also a lot of other patients who have had it for 20 years and have been dealing with it for, forever. And then there's other patients who um, have it even more severe with the angioedema, which is the swelling. So, like swelling of your lips, your throat, like bad, right?
Yeah.
Um, so he says to me, he just jumps right to Xolair, this injection. And I was really concerned about it because I am a delicate flower. And so I was like, I don't know about this. I don't know about
Well,
injecting something
exactly,
else
like you
into me.
and
I
like
already do injections for my migraines.
and everything else, right? You went through so many different things. Trial and error, trial and error, trial and error. An injection is like kind of more permanent than just consuming something. You don't know
Correct.
what it is or what's in it. You have no clue what the ingredients are, but it worked.
Well, it did work. However, I had to kind of pressure him to run more tests. He was just convinced, like, we're not going to know. So he didn't even offer to run any tests.
I don't understand that.
So I had him run more tests before I decided to actually administer the shot. Also, it can take up to 6 months or 3 months, 3 to 6 months or something to get approval for this shot. It could take that long for the shot to work. There were multiple people who were saying that they were on their like fourth or fifth and it's not working. I
Jesus.
mean, there's just a lot of chances that you're playing here with your health.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up getting approval actually within like 3 weeks for this. I got to a point where I had to decide that it was a better alternative than what I was currently experiencing because I was taking 25 milligrams of prednisone every day. So I had
Whoa.
moon face, intense brain fog, got super OCD, which I guess is a rare side effect, but I know it can increase anxiety, but my God, the intrusive thoughts were bad. Um, so I was like, I can't live like this because even if I took the prednisone at night, it still didn't help me sleep.
No,
It
it's not
didn't
good for
hold
you,
off
period.
on the hives coming back in the morning.
Yeah, it's not worth it.
So I do the injection of Xolair in December and immediately have a reaction where my cheeks get all red and puffy and hurt while I'm in the office. And the doctor looks at me and goes, "That's weird."
Oh,
I
not
was like, "I told you I'm a delicate flower."
not comforting.
So he gives me an Allegra and after 20 minutes sends me on my way. However, then I have a 3 week sinus infection. So then I go back in January and I tell him, and he goes, "Well, maybe the shot really spurred up something that was already there." I'm like, "Okay, I guess I can buy this theory considering it's sickness time in Michigan." And I do the injection in January and I get COVID. I basically am out here like raw dogging with this immune system that doesn't exist. And so I'm picking up like everything. And so then I go back in February and tell him I got COVID after I had had the sinus infection. And he's like, "Well, so what do you want to do?" I,
I want you to give me answers, man. You're
yeah,
prescribing me
it's
drugs. You
this
should
is
know why.
it's crazy. So thankfully, I had connected with my functional doctor, Dr. Janine Kraus, and she had started me on uh quercetin. I never say it right, which is terrible. But I also did a cleanse in January by the medical medium, and it was one of the hardest things I've ever done. It was 9 days that was I really thought that it wouldn't be that bad because I already have such a restrictive diet, but no, it was bad. Um, so I came out of that alive. And then started this other supplement, which all like a lot of the patients had also mentioned that quercetin, quercetin, quercetin helps. Um, so then March rolls around, and at this point, I'm allowed to have the Xolair injection, excuse me, sent to my house instead of having to go to the doctor. Well, due to paperwork or lack thereof, my injection did not get shipped. I mean,
I don't, I got nothing. I don't understand it.
so it was a good thing because I was like, well, we're just gonna ride this out and see what happens. And I didn't have hives.
Yeah,
So that
good.
injection from March is still in my fridge.
Perfect.
So if I absolutely need it, I have it. Um, I thought I was in the clear and wasn't having hives. I was like, yes, no more itchiness, no more waking up with dread every day. Um, because the worst part too is that the prednisone wouldn't kick in until like the afternoon, so I really wouldn't feel like doing anything until like 2 o'clock. And then with the Xolair, I was so sick all the time that I also couldn't really do anything. So neither solution was working for me to have a good quality of life. So thank God the hives had went away. But then I was like, holy shit, I feel exhausted
Yeah.
and I'm losing so much hair and my periods are unpredictable and I'm getting so irritated. So like, I mean, the list of perimenopausal symptoms was just going on and on. And I was like, holy shit, did I like did something change or was it like this and I just didn't notice? So then the latest development is that in January, my thyroid TSH level, which is a very common marker, was 0.86. And on the thyroid scale, it goes from 0.32 to 4.5-ish, depends. So in January it was 0.86. Now in May it is 4.1. So my
Yay.
thyroid TSH level went the entire length of the scale, which is bad. That is not good.
That's vivid.
I operate best at like 1.5 to 2. With it being a 4.1 means that my hypothyroidism is worse. Also, my testosterone was low, like below scale. My pregnenolone had dropped from 34 to 21. Other hormones were lower end, but not really of super concern. So, anyway, I started taking a very low dose progesterone liquid and I would rub it on my wrist. It was 4 milligrams, starting on day 10 of my cycle. And the plan was to come off of it when I was on my period. So I did that for a week, didn't see any kind of reaction or anything. So then I upped my pregnenolone. I was taking it every other day. So then I started taking it every day. So that was like 3 or 4 days, didn't see anything happen. I took an increased levothyroxine, which we already have discussed how is problematic and gives me the hives for the sun. Um, I went from 125 to 137 and the hives are back. They're not as bad as they once were.
Doesn't matter.
They
They're fucking back.
do keep getting progressively worse though. So I basically am off all of the hormones at the moment, trying to see if the hives will go away. Um, but I triggered them again. So I obviously feel as though that the hives are connected to hormones, which is again connected to your gut. So like if I'm still not processing the medication correctly, or if I'm not processing things out of my system correctly, et cetera, et cetera. Um, So the mystery continues. I am remaining in control of my own healthcare by looking at all of these different scenarios and events as facts and as a way to document what's happening so that when I go to the doctor, I can use that time as wisely as possible so that
Mm-hmm.
she's not asking me questions and I'm having to search through my memory, which is really bad and foggy at the moment.
Which is crazy. Like have and I know it is because there's a couple things that have happened, and I was like, Miss Nicole, are you okay? Like you are not yourself.
No.
uh,
So I want to go into the appointment saying, here's what I've tried, here's what I've done. I do things slowly, one at a time, et cetera, et cetera, um, to see where we go from here. And the answer could be, trying a more natural thyroid hormone replacement and seeing what happens. The answer could also be, this is just a weird symptom that I'm having from like perimenopause. I mean, who knows, right?
yeah, right.
Um, it could also be, like I said, like I'm not, my gut, liver, kidney function is maybe not optimal or whatever. Um, Now that's all my hypothesis. I have more doctor's appointments coming up. Um, but at this point, I figure might as well share the journey because it's wild.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I can't tell you. I have a nurse, obviously. She comes and I see her through every 3 weeks. And I told her your story about what you were experiencing. She was like, I feel like it's like topical. I'm like, no, it is not topical. It is far deeper than that. It is the fiber of her being has hives.
Hmm.
Like every cell that you have is inflamed. And now you have
Well,
hives.
and to that point, I investigated mast cell activation syndrome. And so when I was really closely watching my diet, I was on a low histamine diet. I don't test for mast cell activation syndrome. Changing my diet didn't change anything. So, not that I do believe that probably my mast cells are freaking out, but apparently, um, that diagnosis doesn't match
Mm-hmm.
what my blood work is showing. But mast cell activation syndrome is a concern for a lot of people, and they use Xolair to keep that under control as well. And Xolair is very successful at keeping the hives at bay, and for most people, but for me, I kept getting sick on it, so
All right.
not
That's
ideal.
not the one.
The other problem is that you don't know if you're having hives or not until you go off the medication.
Mm-hmm.
So at some point, you could be taking the medication and not needing it,
Yeah, that's the worst part.
because you have to decide, well, do I have this window of time where I could deal with the hives if they're still there?
Right. Like, do I have 3 months of time to really let things leave my system, see what it's like living without it, and then reintroduce it back into my system? Because fuck that shit.
Right. So,
Good lord.
if anything, I hope that this doesn't just sound like, I don't know, me complaining or bashing the medical system. It's more of just like, here's the facts. It could be similar to somebody else's story, or maybe somebody else had experienced some success.
Yeah,
Um,
this is trying to open it up to the community at large and have like a conversation, right? It's not just
right.
you telling everybody your experience and that's that. We welcome people to reach out, contact us, talk to us.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I should note, I also tried histamine scavenger is a supplement, which has quercetin and bromelain and nettles in it, which is, I mean, it has other things too, but that is a very combination or a very common combination of things that people have suggested. And it seemed to be working until I introduced new hormones into my system. So
Mhm.
the medical mystery continues. And um I'm not sure what I'm gonna do with the information after this because it's just so much. And when you don't have definitive information and you don't have something that specifically works, you're like, well, what am I doing? What am I sharing? Like, is this
Right.
really helpful, right? At
Hmm.
first, I was like, I really want to share this because the quercetin and the cleanse, like, was a game changer for me. At
Right.
least that's what I think was the game changer
I
for
think it
me.
was.
Um, and so I'm like, I didn't want to gatekeep that information.
Right. Because there are people out there who probably, I mean, I personally don't hang out on Facebook anymore, so I would have never found that community at all. And if I
Right.
was sick, I don't even think if I was that sick, I would go to Facebook to find a community of humans, if I'm being very honest. So I'm, it
Well,
got
it's a
weird.
lot of chatter to get through.
It got weird. And I don't have that kind of time, patience, or energy. No, must not.
Yeah. Yeah. There is a supportive feeling of knowing that you're not
Yeah.
alone because this is an extremely isolating condition.
Right.
And so many people have so many opinions about what could be causing it and what you could be doing. That I was hoping in this longer format there wouldn't be recommendations like apply Benadryl, right?
Mm-hmm. Take a Benadryl. I'm made of Benadryl. I eat so
I
much of it.
know. Well, I mean, just like how your nurse was like, I really think it's topical. I'm like, it's not. There was not a single topical thing that I could even put on the hives to keep them from itching.
Right.
And the way that they would appear and disappear and whatever, it wasn't like a normal rash.
Mm-mm. No, it was,
So
I've never seen hives like that before. Never in my life. I was like, oh, I was aghast.
yeah, well, and then some of them look like ringworm. I think one's kind of fading. You can see how it's like a
Mm,
perfect circle, you know?
yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Um, but so I had this one like this morning, so it's fading because it's now 7 o'clock.
Right. Naturally. Just in time for you to feel normal and be able to go to bed, only for them to come back. Hopefully
Yeah,
they won't tonight.
yeah.
Hopefully it was
Well,
just a.
so here we are. Um, Typically at the end of an episode, we would do an add a girl. This entire episode is my add a girl.
I was gonna say you got this kind of the whole episode.
And then we also need to wish Sarah a happy 40th birthday.
Oh, it's me. I'm
Yeah.
40 now.
Yeah, yeah. The episode's not all about me.
But always could be. I don't care. You're fucking interesting.
Well, that's the thing is, I could go on forever and ever about all these little details and what they mean and the
Yeah.
type of doctors and the type of tests and et
And
cetera,
but
et
if people
cetera.
want that information, you're happy to give it to them. But
Yeah.
this is just like the intro.
Yeah, this is just the laying the foundation so that people understand how critical it is to me that I understand what's happening with my body and that I don't live this way. Like there's got to
Right.
be a way to have a better quality of life.
But also I think that like reminding folks that doctors are not the authority. They're just like me and you doing the job. And so it's always incredibly important to get more than one opinion if you
Mm-hmm.
are uncomfortable with the fact that somebody is trying to shove medicine in your face. That you're allowed to
Mm-hmm.
do that. You're allowed to go to alternative doctors. You can go to woo-woos, you can go to witch doctors. Like they're out there. Yeah, maybe they're a little more expensive, but they're doing that because they have passion. And I have found my experience with those doctors is tenfold better than anybody I've ever gone to in the system that is today's system.
Oh yeah. Oh
Because
yeah. I
they
mean,
care.
a functional doctor, the whole point is that they look at your entire body and with multiple medical conditions. It's really important to know that if you're going to prescribe something,
Right.
that it's not going to fuck
What's
up
the
something
ripple?
else,
What's the
right?
ripple? I just started saying what's the ripple effect at work because I have realized that people don't understand that once you get this portion checked, there is aftermath. And
Right,
it happens across the board,
right,
especially in your body.
right.
What's the ripple?
Everything's connected.
What's the ripple? If I take this now and my hives
Yeah,
go away, yay, what's the ripple?
yeah, yeah. Well, and in addition to the whole hive scenario, I have other doctors that I see. So throughout this whole process, I mean, I'm seeing what, 7 doctors or something.
Right. Well, like
And
your full-time job is going to the doctor at this
yeah,
point.
and I just recently went to my neurologist to have Botox injections for my chronic migraines and told her, the drama continues and, hormones are all wacky. And she was like, well, if they ever decide to give you estrogen supplements, do not take the estrogen pill because it increases the number of migraines and or intensity. So if you are going to take any kind of estrogen, make sure it's a patch.
And how many people fucking know this? How many women are out there eating estrogen pills, getting chronic migraines, going, I don't know what's going on. It's weird. And I guess it must be. That makes me
Well,
so
I mean,
mad.
I don't know if it creates migraines for women who didn't already have them, but me as a
Yeah.
already chronic migraine sufferer, she basically was like the pill version's going to make it worse.
Yeah. But like, that's the kind of shit we should be aware
Yeah.
of,
But my
regardless.
doctors aren't talking to each other. I'm telling them.
Exactly.
So you have to be on top of your shit. And when you
Yeah.
go to these appointments, you have to be like, look, I know that you're here to just inject Botox into my head, but I feel like an old lady right now
Hmm.
with all of my medical conditions. And she looked at me and she's like, you're not old. And I'm like, but I'm like, I am exhausted.
I'm exhausted like an 80-year-old, actually.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I have the same. I have to advocate for myasthenia gravis. I can't have guaifenesin. I can't have iodine. I can't have anything that's like a muscle relaxer. I had a doctor try to give me an antibiotic that was going to make my symptoms insanely worse, and they didn't believe me. They had to look it up in the system. So,
Yeah.
yes, you have to
Yeah, you
be
have
on
to
top of
know.
it.
I know part
Because,
of the reason that I was taking antibiotics that were not amoxicillin or penicillin or whatever is because I'm allergic to it.
yeah, I can't have any
Um,
Cillins either anymore.
so, that's, but a lot of that stuff people don't know. And your circle wants to help you,
Hmm.
but this is outside of the scope of my circle.
Right.
Because my circle is going to say, well, did you take an amoxicillin? Did you take a Benadryl? Did you put a cream on? Did you,
Right.
and I want to punch him in the face.
Hmm.
So,
I
we're
get it.
using this platform to get to people who maybe are a little
Fed
more
up.
well versed or have gone through it similarly,
Yeah.
right? So I appreciate everyone listen to me ramble on for an hour now about this, which I could actually do an entire series. It could be a full fucking 10 episodes on each individual thing. But
I mean, you could do it. I'm here. I know.
we just rebrand ourselves as the pissed off patients.
TM. Our intellectual property. Thank you. I'll come for you. I will.
So if
We could
you
totally do a pissed off patient series. I'm fine with that.
do pissed off patients,
That's just us ranting. I don't think anybody would need it.
Yeah, I don't think anybody wants to listen to ranting either, but the point isn't to be a rant. The point is to uh educate.
Precisely. Create a community.
So, if you've experienced something similar, you have thoughts on like what could be happening to me, you have found something that has worked for you, or you know what, at this point, I'd also be welcome to having somebody else come on and share a similar
Yeah,
medical mystery journey.
we could do it.
Um,
Pissed off patients. It's a thing. We're making it a thing. You want to be our first pissed off patient? Holler at your girls.
right? Because it's incredibly frustrating that this is all happening to mostly women, and there's not enough research done on women's bodies.
At all, generally in period. Like fucking facts. I can't stress this enough. The Western medicine, still to this day, mind you, has not changed the way they address the body. They find that women and males should be operating in like the same manner for the most part, and we don't. Period. There have been so many things that we've gone over the last couple of, I don't know, almost we're 5 years in, something like that, where we've talked to professionals across the board, and it's insane to think that the Western medicine still hasn't caught up to that. Like, still, period.
No, because when they were doing research on women's bodies, or just
They
human
don't.
bodies, I should say, when they were doing research on human bodies, they were basically saying the women's body is too complicated.
Right. And they're baselining everybody on a man.
Hmm.
Um,
Which I understand. There's obviously a lot of variables in
sure.
women's bodies,
But
but
how is that
when it
fair to
has to
us?
do with women's issues,
Right. Like they just recently did a study, and I don't remember even where I got this data, so you can Google it if you want to, if you don't believe me, which I'm fine with that. I'm not an authority on anything. That women like innately need at least 8 hours of sleep a night. Period. There's no questioning that. That is what women need. Men can survive on 4, 5. That's that. Like we didn't know that.
right,
We weren't told women you need to sleep more than men. We were just all blanket statement told 8 hours of sleep.
right.
I have so much cat hair in my face.
So you can reach out to us on Instagram at homance_chronicles, or me directly, NB Media Marketing. You can email us homancepodcast@gmail.com. I mean, that might be the best way if you're long-winded, but just be very specific in your email subject line. And
Yeah, start your title with pissed off patient. We'll make sure we watch it.
and if you don't have something that you want to share, you don't have any advice, you haven't been in the situation, but you're interested in the journey because you know somebody who's going through something, like I have no problem doing more episodes on sharing what's happening with my health or diving into a particular topic. So if you wanted to know more about Graves' disease and how it turns into hypothyroidism. If you want to know more about the chronic migraines, whatever, like honestly, I don't care at this point. Like I will share
Same goes
whatever
for
I
me.
can. Hum?
I said same goes for me. I'm happy to share my experience with myasthenia gravis.
Yeah.
We're
So
all we got a large spectrum of crazy shit happening.
yes,
All
your
of it.
favorite two autoimmune disorder buddies
We're
are
sick
here for
house.
you. And then we'll say, and in sickness and health, we're out. Homance out.
Okay. Bye.